Hello everybody, thank you for tuning into LAB. I want to talk to you a little bit today about how to choose a law firm. The first thing I would encourage you to do is think about what size of law firm you want to apply to. A big firm, you're going to have access to high level clients and high quality workload. But when you're thinking about the size of the law firm, you've got to be mindful of the fact that even though you're being exposed to high quality clients and work, you probably won't have a very managerial role over that type of work. You'll probably be doing fairly low level types of work on large files. So although you'll be getting that exposure, the work you'll be doing probably won't be as client facing as the work you would get in a smaller firm. Obviously the pay is higher in a bigger firm, but you've also got to think about the hours that you will be expected to work for that pay. Big salaries are really attractive to you when you're thinking about applying, but think about what you're going to be expected to do for that. A lot of the Magic Circle firms have pods for sleeping in, and you will be expected to pull all-nighters, probably on a regular basis if you're thinking about a large London law firm. Another plus of big firms is a training environment. You will probably be on a very structured training program because those types of firms have trainees every single year. They know what to do with them, and also you'll have the benefit of having a lot of other trainees probably to work with you, which can be nice as well, to have an environment where you have buddies that you can go to talk about problems, and there'll probably be trainee events and things that are organised for you to go to so you can get to know each other and have a bit more of a social aspect. My advice would be train at the best possible firm you can. You can always scale down to a smaller firm once you qualify if you decide you want to go in-house or you want to do something a bit different that's a bit less intensive. However, if you are trying to scale up from a smaller law firm, it's a lot more difficult because you don't have that proven track record, that training record, that exposure to high level work and high level clients. Another thing you want to think about is what region you want to work in. It's very attractive to think about working in London because you think that's where all the big firms are, that's where all the big opportunities are. And that is true to a certain extent. But also bear in mind that a lot of the big name firms who are based in London also have offices in the regions. So if you choose to work in a region, you're not necessarily choosing to work at a lower quality firm. You may just be choosing to work at the same firm, but just in a region. Also think about the quality of life. London hours are long, and you've got to bear in mind the fact that you will probably not be living all that close to your firm. Obviously, you normally take a drop in pay for working in the regions, but that may well balance itself out when you're thinking about the cost of living as well. So think about all those factors. Don't just automatically assume that because you are choosing to work in a region that you're downgrading or you're admitting defeat because you think you won't get a job in London. There are so many benefits of working in a region, and you often get the same plus points of working for a large firm. You just also get those plus points of living and working in a region as well. Other things you want to think about are the type of law that you're interested in. This is a really difficult decision to make when you are studying or whatever you're doing at the moment, because if you haven't worked at a law firm, it's almost impossible to get an idea of what it would actually be like to work in that practice area. The book-based learning that you're doing is not reflective of what it's actually like on a day-to-day basis to practice that area of law. So although you can show an interest in a certain area of law, do not nail all your colours to that mast and think, right, I've absolutely loved studying family law at college, so that's exactly what I want to apply for. I'm only going to apply for family law and I'm only going to show an interest in that. You can kind of fit yourself broadly into two categories, I think. You can either decide that you want to go corporate and commercial type route, or you want to go more private client type route. I think that is a sensible decision to make early on, even if you don't narrow down within those two spheres, because different types of law firm tend to practice broadly in those two areas. Once you've decided where you want to work, what size law firm you want to work in, and which of those two categories you fit into, then you can start doing some more specific research about different firms. A good place to start on this is a website called the Legal 500. That essentially lists all of the different law firms by region and by practice area. So you can look at the top firms in whatever region you want to work in for whatever broad practice area you want to work in. And that will give you a good starting point for the firms that you want to look at. You can then do some more individual research about those firms, look at their websites, follow them on social media and find out a bit more what they're about. Another good piece of advice at this stage is to get your careers advisor involved. You will almost certainly have a careers advisor wherever you're studying, and they're really, really helpful about giving you more specialised information about specific firms and what they're like. They will know a bit more of the nitty-gritty and give you a more candid view about those law firms than perhaps you might get from the website alone. Other things to think about are retention rates and salary. Salary is a fairly obvious one. That is going to be the first thing that you look for when you go on the grad recruitment section of the website. The salary may or may not be listed, but generally speaking, you can find out what the figures are for salary payments as a first year and second year trainee in whatever region you want to apply to. If it's not on the specific firm website, have a look on lawcareers.net, because that often gives a really good summary of a lot of information about firms, including salary. I mentioned retention rate a minute ago as well. That's quite an important thing that you may not have thought about. Retention rate essentially means how many trainees they actually keep on as qualified solicitors once they finish their training contract. And that is something which is quite a stressful thing to think about. You don't want to feel like you've only got a 50% chance of being kept on, because it's bad for morale. You don't want to think, oh, I'm going to work my socks off and do really well, but there's still only 50% chance that I'm going to be kept on at the end of it. Whereas if you've got a firm that's got an 80 to 90% retention rate, then you can feel a bit more confident that provided you do well and you work hard, you will get a job at the end of it. Once you have then narrowed it down a little bit further, I would then suggest going to a law fair. I've deliberately put law fair at the end because I think it's very tempting to think a law fair is a really good place to start to give me an idea about different types of firms and what they're like. But I would strongly shy away from going to a law fair at a very early stage, because law fairs can make or break you. It's a really good opportunity to meet people from the firms and get a more thorough understanding of what it would be like to work at that firm. But they will remember you. And from being on both sides of a law fair, both going as a student and trying to find out a bit more about the application process and training contracts, and also from going there as a trainee on the other side of the desk to give information, there is nothing more frustrating than having people come up to you and just sort of look at your sign and go, oh, okay, so what kind of law do you do then? It's so frustrating and it's a wasted opportunity. In fact, I might do a whole separate video on what to do and what not to do about at a law fair, because they're so important. Once you've spoken to people from law firms, hopefully you should have a good idea about where you want to apply to, and then you can start your application process. I'm doing a whole separate video on applications, which you might have seen already, but it's really important to be really specific in your application forms about why you want to apply to that firm, and not just copy and paste generic answers across law firms. So try and go through all of the steps that I've just mentioned before you start your application process, and then you will have a really tailored response and really good reasons why you want to apply to those firms. Okay, I feel like I've rambled on long enough, and I hope that has given you a kind of structured approach, although I feel like I've jumped around between different areas of law. But I really hope that I've given you some pointers which will help you start your research process and narrow down the firms that you want to apply to. As always, please give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, leave me comments about what you would like to see differently about this video or other videos to do. I'm always really keen to hear your views and ideas about future content. I really hope this has been helpful, and I will see you again in my next video. Thanks very much for watching.